Yeah, hello everybody, welcome back to a new tutorial, and today I want to show you or talk about a little bit about the church modes, and I hope I can solve some confusion maybe you have about these modes. And I showed you already two tutorials where I showed you the harmonization of a major scale and the finger shapes, the 5 finger shapes of a major scale, so you can play with these 5 finger shapes any major scale. These are important tutorials to understand or to handle these modes. So what are the modes? Modes are additional scales built from the root scale or from the mother scale. If, for example, if I take the C major scale, and so I can build from each degree or from each different note from the major scale, I can build a new scale. And we are already we know two modes from a major scale, which are the Ionian and the Aeolian mode. On the first degree starts from C to C. We have the C major scale, and this mode is called the Ionian mode, which have the half steps between the third note and fourth note, and seventh and eighth note between E and F and B and C. And if we take the natural minor scale, which is called the Aeolian mode, so we have the half-tone steps between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6. That's why we get a different sound. And also we get on the first degree, where we have the Ionian mode, we get a C major chord. And on the 6th degree we get a minor chord, an A minor chord. Therefore you should look my tutorial about the harmonization. And so we have 5 more scales or mode scales built from this major scale. The first mode was the Ionian mode. That's why I need the finger shapes here from the Ionian mode. I start with the note C. The second shape, I start with the note D. And if I start with the note D and build a scale from D to D, then the halftone in between this scale are also shifting. That's why we get a different sound. And for example, it's the shape goes like this. And so we can build from each different note a new scale. From D to D, it's the Dorian mode. If I build a scale from E to E, I get the Phrygian mode. If I build the scale from F to F, I get the Lydian mode. Then I build a scale from G to G, I get the Mixolydian mode. And from A to A, I get the natural minor mode, which we know already. And from B to B, I get the Logrian mode. And for all these modes, for example, on the first degree of a major scale, first fourth, or 1 plus 4 is 5. On 1, 4, 5, we get a major chord, for example, or the 5th, so C major, G major, or 4, it's an F. And 2, 3, and 6 we get the minor chords. From 2 it's the D minor, D minor, or A minor. And now it's like this. If I had a chord progression, for example, I play only C, C. So the first chord is a C, and it sounds. This is the tonal chord, which sounds like a C. And over this chord progression, I can play my C major scale, and I start, for example, with the note C and end with C. So it sounds Aeolian. I can also take this chord, for example, A minor and C, start with A minor chord. And I play also the C major chord over this chord progression. But I start with the with the A note and end with the A note. So the tonality is more on A instead on C. So it sounds Aeolian. And I can play any note or any note from the C major scale over this. It's only because of the start of the A minor. It sounds A minor. It's like your wallpaper in your room. For example, you sit in your room, and one day you have a black wallpaper, you feel sad, and one day you have a red one, or you feel happy. One day you feel you have a green one, you feel different, more happy, or what else. So depending on the wallpaper, you have a different feeling. It's the same with the modes. If I have a chord progression, start with for example, with this note C, and then we are in the Ionian mode, for example. And if I start with A minor, I play these two chords, but I start with A minor and then play the C major over it. So it sounds like Aeolian, but I still play only the notes from the C major scale. Yeah, and or other, it's if you are, if you are married and you like to bring your wife a little gift, and you bring a wash machine, say, oh, I have a little gift for you. She's very angry, and other day you bring earrings or gold, and then she's very happy, but it's still the same wife, but only the feeling is changing because of the gift you gave her. Okay, now let's start an example with a D minor chord, for example. If your band colleagues like to jam over a D minor chord, so you have to think in which scale you are jamming, because we have the possibility, for example, to play a D Dorian, or a D Phrygian, or a D Aeolian mode. Let's take a D minor chord to over my loop pedal. Okay, let's start with the D Dorian mode, for example. This is the Dorian mode. The Dorian mode is the second degree of a major scale. So if I play the Dorian mode, for example, this is the second degree. If I go one step below, and then I start with the C. Then you know you are in the C major scale. If you jam over the D Dorian mode, so you need the C major scale, for example. So now let's jam over the D Phrygian, for example. I start with the D Phrygian shape. That means if you are in the D Phrygian mode, this is the third degree of the major scale, and then if I calculate back and what is my major scale from D, I come to B flat major, for example. Yeah, this is one possibility, and then the next one, you can play an Aeolian, for example, and D Aeolian. So I play the D Aeolian shape. Before the Aeolian, then here's the C Mixolydian. That means if I calculate back what is D Aeolian, so D Aeolian, after D Aeolian we get Locrian, and then we get Ionian. That means D Aeolian belongs to F Ionian. Okay, this was one example, and let's go to next example. Okay, now let's put a B major chord on tape or to the looper. Okay, over this B major chord, we want to play the, it's a major chord, we can play the Mixolydian mode, for example. We could play also the Ionian mode and Lydian mode, but here I will play the Mixolydian mode, And the Mixolydian mode is the 5th degree of a major scale. That means we have the E major scale. It's E, F, G, A, B. So we have the 5th mode is the Mixolydian, which is the B Mixolydian from the E major scale. Okay, now let's look how it sounds. For example, the shape for the Ionian. Sorry for the Ionian. Yeah, okay, you have seen, also you can create nice melodies. First was, for example, Norwegian Wood from Beatles, and the other was Freeway Jam from Jeff Beck. So if you know your finger shapes, and then you can create more easily, you create melodies, or you can hear the melodies, and you are not digging around in the vegetable field and looking for notes. Okay, now let's get started with our last example, which I want to explain. Okay, now let's come to our last example. Let's play the following chord progression: E minor 7 and D dominant 7. Let's put these two chords on our looper. Okay, if we have, for example, this chord progression A minor 7 and D7, and we have to think what scale we can play over, or what mode. That means the tonal center is A minor 7, and we can play, for example, in Aeolian Mode. Aeolian Mode is the 6th degree of the C major scale, that we know already, and the second chord of C major scale is in D minor 7, but we have no D dominant 7. The 5th degree of this C major scale is a G. So that means we cannot play in Aeolian Mode. Next possibility we have, we can play an A Phrygian. A Phrygian is the 3rd mode. The 3rd mode, so we have F, G, A. We are in the F major mode. And the F major mode, if we have, for example, F, F, G, F, G, A, B, C, D. On the 6th degree, we have a D, D minor 7. On the 6th degree of F major, we have D minor 7. That means we cannot play a Phrygian. What else we have? An Dorian. Dorian is the second mode of a major scale. What is the second mode? So we have one before. We have G Dorian, G major scale, and G. So on the 5th degree, G, A, B, G, B, C, D. That means on the 5th degree we have on the 5th degree of G major chord we have a D dominant 7 chord, and this will work. So we can play an A Dorian mode over these chords. And okay, let's try and how this sounds. Okay, as you see, this mode will work over this chord progression, and so you can practice your own modes. For example, you take let's start. So you can start with, for example, you put only a C note on your tape or recording tool, whatever. C note, start with the C note, and so you can play the C Ionian over it, and the D Dorian, the F Phrygian, and so on. Or you take the C note and you play C Ionian, C Dorian, C Phrygian, and so on, and then you are in different scales. If you play it in this way, you can practice by your own. Put your backing track and then churn over it, and it's important to learn the finger shapes. And as I said, it's only a recommendation which I gave you. I use these finger shapes. There are there are some more finger shapes, but for me this finger shape is convenient. And if you don't learn these finger shapes, then you have the problems to find all the notes. And what you can do also, if you know, for example, if you know the song Sweet Home Alabama. Most of you maybe think this song is in the major or the Aeolian. But if you look at the major scale, and so you will see that the major scale, if you so we need a C major, and the D major scale has no C C major chord. It has only a C sharp diminished chord, and the mode of Sweet Home Alabama, it's D Mixolydian, which is the 5th degree of a major G, A, B, C, D. It's the 5th degree is the it's D Mixolydian, so you can jam in G major over Sweet Home Alabama, or you take the G major pentatonic. And so on. Try it and you will see. And so you can work with your modes and find out what are the modes of your song. I hope you enjoyed my lesson and some confusion. I could solve some confusion, and see you next time with a new lesson. Okay, see you. Bye bye.